This is in reaction to the confrontation between the Inspector General uh, of Police and his AP deputy on one side and the Chief Executive Officer of the National Police Service before the Parliament. I think it was a Parliamentary Accounts Committee. You need both a trained eye and a keen eye to read between the lines on the exchange that the Inspector General of Police and the Administration Police Deputy Inspector General had with the Chief Executive Officer of the National Police Service. This, together with what is happening countrywide, makes it now clear to understand why everything is the way it is. I will try my level best to explain in my own way. I may not be good at summarizing. I may not be good at passing information, but I am very good in identifying the problem and even the solutions. During William Ruto's time, police have become barbaric. It did not happen in a day, but it was noticed during Ruto's time. It has to do with the Constitution. It has to do with the Constitution. Many people say that it was wrong to elect Ruto to the very same Constitution he was against. My take is this. First and foremost, it is bad to qualify an individual on his or her voting pattern. Just like the politics we hear of shares. Once you are elected, you serve each and everyone equally. So, it does not matter whether Ruto was against the 2010 Constitution or not. Once we agreed on the Constitution, we cannot start saying that these are the people who are pro the Constitution, so it is theirs. This one, it is there for all of us. My expert opinion is that Ruto was not against the Constitution per se. He was test driving his power to campaign countrywide. Ruto chose the side which was no, because all political heavyweights had gone to yes. Now, supposing there are 50 people who are saying yes, and you are the only person who is saying no, and then 25% of the people vote against the Constitution, you can have some bragging right that you have 25% of the population, while 50 people can divide among themselves the 75%. That is why Ruto, in his first attempt to become the president of Kenya, he won the elections. He did his rehearsal, he did his mock during the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and in 2013 and 2017, he did his rehearsal as a running mate. I don't think there is, in the very near future, we are going to have another president who is going to be elected as the president of Kenya on his first attempt. But as I've said, Ruto succeeded because in his very first attempt, he had already done his rehearsals and mock exams thrice. First during the 2010 Constitution and twice as a running mate of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So kindly take it that Ruto was not against the 2010 Constitution, but it was like you wanting to take a driving license, and instead of being tested on a pickup, you are tested on a lorry. So his going against the 2010 does not mean that he was against it, but he was attempting on a national, he was rehearsing on a national-wide campaign. And the other thing, as I said, it would be wrong for people to start saying now that you are against the 2010 constitution, so you are, once it was passed, just like an MCA, I may have campaigned against you to be our MCA, but once you became the MCA, you are the MCA for all of us. The other thing we have to do or say is we have to thank the Parliament. Where the constitution is clear, there is no need about beating the bush. In this case where the Inspector General of Police and his deputy in charge of APs were against the National Police Service Commission, we can say that we should thank the Parliament for coming out boldly and declaring things in no unequivocal way. And it was so clear that they said, transfer the functions immediately. Don't give the National Police Service Commission access. No, transfer immediately. After transferring, inform us in writing that you have transferred. And after transferring, and after the National Police Service Commission has received the function, they are they were to communicate to Parliament by certifying that they have received the Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee is very clever, and I want to thank them. It's very clever because they knew that leaving everything to the police would have just said, we have transferred. They said, and I repeat, transfer the functions. After transferring, as soon as possible, after transferring the functions, inform us. They did not stop there. They turned to the National Police Service Commission and said that after the functions have been transferred to you, after you have received them, then notify us in writing that you have received them. Now, I want to tell you how Ruto conned Kenya, and I can say he is very good at it. If there is anything that Ruto has a talent in, that is what it is. He is the type of a person who can tell you that it is not what it appears to be. It is this way, and he can convince you. He's very good in convincing. Now, this is what happened when Uhuru and Ruto government took over. It took over. You see, Kibaki government was moving out under the old constitution, and Uhuru Ruto government was taking over in a new constitution. So you know there is that exchange in both the government and also the constitution and the functions of the police. Previously, in the old constitution, in the Kenyatta, Moi, Kibaki era, all those of the rank of acting inspector and below were employed by the Commissioner of Police. They were employees of the Commissioner of Police. But confirmed inspectors and above were employees of the Public Service Commission. So you are doing the same job. Of course, the uniform was also different because you find that inspectors and above somebody once told me that wewe ni wale mnavaa mshipi mnafunga kamba kwa tumbo kama wamama. Inspectors used to dress different from other people. So even a pre-unit child would know that this is a junior police officer. But today, a recruit is putting on the same uniform as a deputy inspector general. So during those days, confirmed inspectors and above up to the commissioner, they were employees of the Public Service Commission. But junior officers were employees of the Commissioner of Police. During the Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, Moi, and Kibaki era, police service had 3 terms of services. 3 different terms of services. Subordinate officers had a different term of services. The inspectorate had a different terms of services. And gazetted officers had different terms of services. So the 2010 Constitution amalgamated the 3 such that all police officers from recruit to senior assistant inspector general, they were employees of the National Police Service Commission. That is what the 2010 Constitution did. It created the National Police Service Commission, which became like the Teachers Service Commission. If I had an audience here, I would have told them, piga makofi kwa hiyo. The National Police Service Commission was to amalgamate the duties done by the Public Service Commission for the inspectors and above, and the Commissioner of Police for the subordinate officers. That is what the National Police Service Commission's mandate is. The 10 years, sorry, I'm still, I have a sore throat. The 10 years went without its doing its full duties because of 2 reasons. The National Police Service Commission was supposed to do all that job that the TSC does for. What am I saying? I'm saying that the National Police Service was to do to the police what the TSC does to the teachers. But in the 10 years, it could not do the full duty because of 2 reasons. One, being a pioneer organization, you have a lot at your plate. Kavuludi could not do all those work in 10 days. And the second reason was that Uhuru Ruto government, the government for Uhuru and Ruto, was reluctant to surrender its function. So on one side, Kavuludi had a lot of work to do, and on the other hand, the government was reluctant to release a loyal slave. Remember, I want to take you elsewhere. I want to give you an example. Remember what counties are saying. Counties are now saying that the national government has surrendered the functions that the Constitution gives to the counties. But the national government or the central government has maintained the funds. Let me give an example. I'm not sure of the percentage, but let me just give an example. For example, on medical purposes, the national government is supposed to have, is it level 5 and above? And level 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are supposed to be run by the county governments. Now you find most of the sick people or most of the finances in treating the sick people is done at the lower level. When were you last admitted to hospital? A long time ago, isn't it? Now, most of the time, like me, I'm not feeling well now, right now. You just go to level 1 or 2 and come back. So 70% of the treatment is done at the lower levels, isn't it? But 30% of the expenses go to the national level. How many of you in your village or compound do go to the ICU? Very few. So you find that when it comes to expenditure, we can say that the national level needs 30% of the finances, and the county needs 70%. So we should have 70% of the money going to the counties, since it is doing the 70% of the function. But the central government has given the county government 70% of the functions, but retained 70% of the finances. This is just an example. The 70 and 30% is just an example. I don't even have the real figures that way. So that is what is happening. The national government is giving out the functions, but the funds are still retaining the national. As the functions are done by the county government, but the money is retained by the national. So that is why Ruto government, when it took over, it was supposed to do two things simultaneously as far as police work is concerned. It was supposed to transfer personnel functions and junior officers from the Vigilance House to the National Police Service Commission. And two, it was to transfer personnel functions of senior police officers from the Public Service Commission to the National Police Service Commission. What they did, they went and grabbed the work of the senior police officers from the Public Service Commission, and instead of consolidating the two and making them be one and handing over to the National Police Service, they took that and retained the two. As we speak right now, that is what they were forced by the Parliament to do yesterday. In the second instance, it removed it. Yeah, that is what I'm saying. It removed the senior police officers from the Public Service Commission and grabbed it. So they retained the two without transferring it to the National Police Service Commission. National Police Service Commission, if the Inspector General and his deputies are allowed to do what they are doing, will end up being like the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Kenya National Human Rights Commission, and IPOA. We have commissions, we have whatever, in names only. They are starved of functions, they are starved of finances. When you ask, you are told, you see, we have independent bodies like IPOA. That is why an inspector of police in 1990s was more effective than a senior superintendent of today. Look at the way the superintendents were pleading with Murkomen during his trips countrywide, and Northern Rift in example. Let us look at the history. Let us look at the history. But before we look at the history, you find that when OCSs and OCPDs were given time to talk to Murkomen, they were pleading. Why should you? Hey, wajamaa, umeniandika mimi nikulimie shamba, sio? Do I come to you and say, tafadhali boss, ukiweza tafadhali nitafutie jembe nilime? If you want me to dig your farm, give me a jembe. You don't have to ask for ati tafadhali. Walio nasema no yansa ho no no moyo mulai dago daida wakorwa wena kedo hado get me a jembe. You don't daida anybody for what is in your job. You find the OCPDs are saying, oh, you see, the hardship we are facing in the police station is this and this and that. They are asking for jembes, and they have been given time to lima that shamba. And that is what is happening. But before we go to that, let us start from the history. People say that I'm one of the best history teachers in Kenya. Let us go into the history of the Kenya police. In the early 70s, around 1971, in order to chip Moi's power, the police was removed from Home Affairs Ministry and placed in the Internal Affairs Ministry of Mbio Koinange. You know, before that, Police was in the Ministry of Home Affairs. So Moi, as the Vice President and the Minister for Home Affairs, he was in charge of the police. But they felt that because they wanted the police inspectors to start slapping Moi, they removed the police from Home Affairs and took it to Internal Affairs, where the minister was Mbio Koinange. When Moi took over, he never returned it to the Home Affairs Ministry. He retained it in the office of the president. Up to this very minute, it is still there. Remember, the president is the commander-in-chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, but he cannot order the police. You see, the president is the commander-in-chief, the overall commander of the armed forces or the Kenya Defense Forces. But he is not the commander of the police. Even the inspector general is not the commander of the police. The law is the commander of the police. It is the law that orders the police. The framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, and they should be congratulated, saw the need for the police to be independent. The police should be only answerable to the Constitution and the law. I repeat, the police is supposed to be answerable to the Constitution and to the law. They saw that domiciling the police in either the Home Affairs Ministry, where it was during Jomo Kenyatta's time, or under the presidency would influence it, as we are now seeing. OCPDs telling Murkomen, tafadhali saidia hapa, saidia nini. Unaomba jembe uniandike nikulimie na hauna jembe, nitakaa hapo mpaka jioni nije unilipe, because unipatie jembe ndio nilime. Now you see the OCPDs and OCS sijui nini begging for what is theirs. So the framers of the 2010 Constitution saw that domiciling the police in either the Home Affairs Ministry or the presidency would influence them on it. They also did not like the instances where the same people were working under different employees. What I mean, they did not like a situation where inspectors and above were employees of Public Service Commission and the junior officers were employees of the Inspector General. They saw that the best thing was to copy the Teachers Service Commission. Teachers are public employees like any other, but somebody very wise felt that the teachers with a unique working environment should have a Teachers Service Commission. So somebody felt that since the teachers have a unique working environment, the police also have a unique working environment. They should have a TSC, but this time call it Police Service Commission. But you see, calling it Police Service Commission would confuse with PSC, Public Service. So they call it National Police Service Commission. Both the TSC, Teacher Service Commission, and the Police Service Commission are the largest employers of the public service. And they felt that with their unique working environment, they should have their own service commission. So Uhuru Ruto government, that is 2013-2022, did it deliberate. So Uhuru Ruto government, be it deliberately or otherwise, ended up with both senior and junior being in the Internal Affairs Ministry. I will repeat. Those who complain that I repeat, but I want to emphasize. Previously, the junior officers were under the police commissioner. and the senior officers were under the Public Service Commission. So the framers of the 20 Constitution wanted them both. You know, it would have been easier. It would have been easier for them to say that both the police service, the junior and senior be under the Inspector General. But they said no, let there be a police service commission and call it National Police Service Commission. Of course, in the military, a private is under the CDF, isn't it? But they felt that the police should be under the National Police Service Commission. The Constitution should be treated second to the Bible. You don't question the Bible, do you? You don't question the Bible. So you should also not question the Constitution. But the good thing about the Constitution is that if something doesn't add up well, you can amend it. But the Bible you can't amend. So there was a reason why the framers of the 2010 Constitution saw it fit to have both of them under a new body, a newly formed body called National Police Service Corps. They in a wisdom, and talking of it today, 15 years later, if there is any part of the Constitution that I agreed with more than that one, I don't think there is. I really agree with them that they were very wise in deciding that. But why should the subsequent Inspector Generals retain that? They were supposed to take the junior officers, take them to Kavuludi. They were to take the senior officers, take them to Kavuludi. But what they did is, first of all, they consolidated the two, which is good. And then they should have consolidated the two and handed over to the National Police Service, which they did, and which they were ordered yesterday to do. Why are they doing that? Because of state control. That is why Murkomen can order the police to shoot, and Ruto can order the police to shoot in the leg. It has come to an extent that even an OCS, by the way, can you look around where you are staying? At the 5 nearest police stations where you are, and I'm very sure 3 or more of the police stations near you do not have a police Land Cruiser. What do you expect the OCS to use when somebody has been hit on the accident? When the OCS is rushing to a scene of crime? And if you can remember the Kitale issue, the lady OCS was complaining, I think she was Wairimu or something. She was complaining that at times when she has to go out, she has to fuel from her own pocket the police Land Cruiser. When I was a constable, OCS had a Land Rover and would use it even as his personal vehicle. I'm not trying to say it is good for them to use personal vehicle. But if the OCS today relies on other sources of fueling, I hope I'll remember that and come to that. But that is where we are. Murkomen had made a tactical withdrawal when he had his boss say that shoot in the leg. Now he has come back boldly. Any recruit in Kiganjo is taught on justifiable instances of the use of firearm. In short, the law and the unique circumstances that forces the police at that particular time is the only dictator of the usage. Any police officer can use a firearm when dictated by 2 things only: the law as taught in Kiganjo. Imagine the first 2 months already the police officer in Kiganjo, the police recruit in Kiganjo knows the justifiable instances of using a firearm. The first 2 weeks, the first 2 months, not 2 weeks, the first 2 months, already they know. And I'm saying that because in the 80s, they used to teach illiterate people, not even today where they take the D+. Those days, they used to teach illiterate people on justifiable usage of firearm. So, the only dictate that dictates a police officer on the usage of firearm, including fatally wounding a person, is covered under law. Even as Musamali was telling Dr. Kingori, when it is time for a riot, it is the inspector who tells the police officers, says, it's called, okay, I'm forgetting, but it says gunman number 2, huyo mtu ako na shati ya red, watatu from the left, 1 bullet, fire. And that police officer has been told to kill, not even to shoot in the leg, apeleko speed. But those are things that were taught there even during those days. But nowadays, because the OCS has to beg the office of the president fuel, they are told shoot the leg. In short, the law and the unique circumstances that forces the cop at that particular time are the only dictators on the usage of firearm, both to aim, to maim, or to kill. The only thing that decides are the circumstances at that particular time. And the recruit is already taught. And my experience is that all the cases that I know that were justifiable, the cop came out scot-free. I want to tell any police officer watching this video, so long as you are within, you just follow what you are taught in Kiganjo. If you follow that, I was recruited in the police in 1982. Since that time, I have never come across even a single instance where a justifiable instances a police officer has landed into problem. No, I have never noticed that. Something that I have noticed, both at the exchange in the parliament and also the speeches by police officers during Murkomen's trips, especially in the Northern Rift, is that the office of the president is micromanaging the police up to the station level. This has adversely caused problems with the OCS and so on. We also, Madam OCS, the one I say of Kitale, pleading for fuel. I am a victim of the same. According to the Deputy Regional Commander of Police in Nairobi, he told me to my face, no, okay, people, when you tell people you are told to your face, people think that it's a rude talking. No, we had a discussion. And when we had the discussion, he told me that a crime can be reported to any police station anywhere in the country. But according to Madam OCS, the Riruta OCS, there are 2 criminals as we talk who are who reside within Webuye, and she has spent a lot of time with their files open. They cannot be arrested. Why can't they be arrested? Because the same Madam OCS Riruta, for her to necessitate for the 2 criminals in Webuye to be arrested, she has to have a vehicle to go to Webuye and arrest them. She has no vehicle. Her exact word that she told me was that, do you expect me to use my money? I don't have a vehicle. I don't have fuel to leave this place and go and arrest those criminals in Webuye. Now they cannot be arrested because she has not been facilitated. The same Madam OCS Riruta necessitated for arrest and dismantling of my iPhone 7 when the complainant or the so-called complainant is already both a convicted criminal in Milimani High Court and she is under police watch. She has been convicted by Milimani Law Court, High Court, and the OCS HAD is now monitoring her. But this convicted criminal, somebody whom there is a court order given by the law courts concerning this very same criminal who has been convicted to the OCS Hardy police station, comes out, it's quite painful, but I have to speak it, comes out, hires an Uber, goes to another police station. Now, Hardy police station is the last police station before the most southern police station in Nairobi. She bypasses all police stations in Nairobi, goes to the most northern police station next to Kiambu, where her lover is a police driver, hires an Uber, gets 4 armed detectives with submachine guns to come and harass me and arrest me. To date, the ODPP vilified me. Is that the proper English word? Said that I had committed no crime. In fact, she's the one who had committed the crime according to her complaint when it was investigated. What am I saying here? It's quite emotional. What I'm saying here is that here is a case at Riruta police station where a clear case, criminals cannot be arrested in Webuye, 2 criminals, because Riruta police station has no Land Cruiser. It has no fuel to go all the way to Webuye to arrest those people. But the same police station arrested a very innocent person. I can say very innocent because ODPP declared that there's no case there. With 4 armed, there were 5. The driver maybe the driver had a pistol, but 4 had the way somebody with the way Wakinyonga is arrested or Washosho or Wanugu, just because the complainant, who today is a convicted criminal, a complainant who today is under the radar of OCS Hardy, a court order under the OCS Hardy has been ordered by the court to monitor her, simply because she could afford an Uber and convince, I don't know how she could convince those 4 detectives to come with submachine guns and dismantle an iPhone 4, which as we speak now, I have used 6,000 shillings to repair it, but it is still spoiled. Painful, as I say. I usually like talking things which, it's not good to talk on things which you have personal interest. But I'm saying that that is where the police now is. Make sure anytime you complain anything, you go to the nearest police station, to the place where the criminal is. Otherwise, if it is somebody who is 5 kilometers away from the police station, look for an Uber. And I don't know. The way I saw those detectives, the way they were enthusiastic in arresting me, I'd be forgiven if I thought maybe they were facilitated in one way or another. And in the very same station that I was placed in the same cells, 41 hours. 41 hours. no food. Just it was on a Monday evening, 8 p.m. The only I had Tuesday morning I had a cup of tea, 2 slices, and Wednesday morning a cup of tea. I was being deliberately placed out during the meal times, and there was an attempt to force feed me. It is there on the social media. So there was an attempt for me. The complainant bought food, I don't know from where, and I was being forced to eat it. I was lucky that it is a food that I'm allergic to, so I refused to eat. And within an hour of that incident, it was already on Facebook, on an account called Vacabras Welfare Association, where somebody, a member of the JI-TENGE family, was boasting that he was being given food laced with poison. So that is where it is. That is why I am for the National Police Service Commission to be given the AIE. Since I can't afford an Uber, and since the convicted criminal can afford an Uber with 5 SMGs who dismantled my iPhone 7, painful it is. That is what is there. Right now, those who know my number, if you call me through WhatsApp, we can talk. But if you call me through Safaricom, up to this, my phone reads it cannot read the S. What I've been told by the Fundi is that they took my phone and they used to walk around with my iPhone, so they would place there. So the iPhone's memory is confused on who is the real owner of that line, and that is why it has rejected my SIM card. And right now I have to look for money to buy another phone. I don't know whether I can afford an iPhone. You remember sometimes back, people used to be told, you go to a police station, you are told, hatuna petroli. You go to a police station, you complain, hey, kuna jambazi sijui nini, polisi haina petroli. Nowadays, wacha petroli, hata hatuna hiyo gari. The Madam OCS in Kitale talked about instances where she's the officer in charge, she's the person who handles people. When it comes to promotion or anything, just like her, if she has to be promoted to any rank, it is good for the OCPD to have some input in it. But she said that nowadays, you find somebody who is the most indisciplined in your station is the one who later comes from nowhere and says he has been promoted on merit. Let me tell you about promotion in merit as it is. It may be good promotion in merit, but it means that the person being promoted does not go to Kiganjo to undergo the physically strenuous exercises for 3 months. The other thing is he or she is not taught how to be in charge of other people. Is not taught how to be in charge of other people. And so he races and races and races just because maybe he knows. Yes, we have cases. We have cases of somebody who has been a constable for 20 years. That one is understandable. But then if someone is promoted to two to three ranks without undergoing promotion, there is something there. Another thing I have to say also is that going to Kiganjo for promotion course has 2 effects. One, you are being taught the new emerging security threats. But most important, the teachers in Kiganjo do not know you. Remember, the person who took you there, maybe you are a friend you have a relative at the police headquarters, or you are very close to the OCS. But when people go to Kiganjo, they go from all sides of the country. They go from everywhere. And when they go there, the teachers there, the instructors there, assess them independently. So yes, you can go there and the teachers there in Kiganjo assess you and say you are not competent. So that is the importance of going to Kiganjo. You learn the new, First of all, you are taught what is expected of you of that rank. Second, you are taught on new and emerging threats to security. But most or equally important, you are also assessed on your suitability for that position from a very independent person. Because if you are given a new rank, you can, in most cases, almost all cases, you get a promotion, you have to go on transfer. So the people in Kiganjo do make assessment to see your suitability in your new rank. But today, your attention or loyalty is not on your immediate supervisor. It is the politician watching the media, both on the mainstream and the social media. As I said, President Ruto is capable of selling ice cream to an Eskimo. Today, our attention is towards the police, but you saw it even with the help. Students, parents, and everybody else was cheated that the new model was student-based one. It was better. I mean, the current students would be treated better than the earlier students. But they are related. They come from the same place. They were educated in the same place. And if you are a first year, you interact with second year and third year, even up to fourth year. And in some discipline, even sixth year. That you can compare. Now, on average, what students are now doing today is that they are paying for, instead of the Ruto's new system of help assisting the students on average, they are now paying 4 times what they used to pay. Now, when they used to pay a quarter of what they are paying now, this is what used to happen. It used to be a lot of money. And let me say, if it used to be a lot of money, now it has been multiplied by 4. I don't know what we can now call now. But it used to be a lot of money, and a student could organize for an Arambe or whatever. How can you organize an Arambe when the president has already said it is student-based, where students from poor families are assisted to be paid, the fees to be paid? Mr. President, okay, today was not about help, but let me tell you. Why don't you put it, the whole fees? What is, what is, okay, an average degree is 300 times 4. 1.2. Okay, let's say, let a student study for free. After graduating, the students will now pay 1.5 million shillings. After graduating. If they don't find a job, that is, you are to blame, because how do you educate somebody and he doesn't get a job? You'll also be motivated to look for a job for them. Other than cheating people that students from poor family are paying nothing. So when students from poor family call for an arm, they say, but the government is not paying anything. Then overcharging a student because his or her parents are rich is encouraging people from hiding their richness. You'd find Kenyans, the way I know them, I know some countries, developed countries, where somebody hata kinyosi anakunywa tu even immediately pays to the government the taxes. But in Kenya, we make sure that we only pay taxes. Right? If we can afford, we don't pay for the taxes. Now, telling the same person that if you earn a lot, you'll pay more. A lot of people will avoid paying the taxes to the government because they'll say they don't earn. So the government will not get taxes. At the same time, the government will be paying for that. But don't you think that is discrimination? Discrimination whereby you are discriminating against people from rich families. When I make my millions, I make it for myself. Education should be equal, should be an equalizer. And in being an equalizer, one should not pay more than the other. Isn't it? You are not supposed to pay more than the other. On the issue of police, I have repeatedly said there are two terms of services, junior and senior. The framers of the 2010 Constitution wanted the two terms to be under the National Police Service. By Ruto claiming that he was removing them from the OOP to their own authority to expand, to incur expenditures, is the greatest con game Kenya will ever have. You see, I've just told you that during Kenyatta's time, the police was in the Home Affairs. So it ended up in the office of the president. The Constitution of 2010 ordered that the AIE, the person to authority to incur expenditures, was to be the National Police Service Commission. But during the 10 years of Uhuru government, the AIE was still in the office of the president. Now, what Ruto conned us, I'm sorry, Your Excellency, if you have to be Your Excellence, you have to be excellent. For you to get the name Excellency, you have to be excellent. This is how I can put it in my own words, that the 2010 Constitution wanted the police service to be under the TSC-like authority, Teacher Service Commission. So they wanted it to be a police service commission, but the initials were just like public service commission. So they introduced National Police Service Commission. But the police, Uhuru government still retained them. Uhuru government still retained them. What the president should have done, and the president is very good in selling ice to Eskimos. He should have just transferred that to the National Police Service. But he created somebody who was called the lady who was in the parliament. So she's the AIE holder for the police service. Previously, the AIE holder was the PS Internal Affairs. And the 2010 Constitution transferred that function to the Chief Executive Officer for the National Police Service Commission. Uhuru delayed it, but Ruto clothed it by creating a position of AIE for the Inspector General Police. That lady was there. So she's the AIE holder. What is she doing? She has grabbed the functions of the CEO of the National Police Service Commission. And that is what the parliament was saying, that those functions should be taken to the what do we call, to the National Police Service Commission, and not only be taken, but after the functions have been taken, the Inspector General should write to the parliament saying that he has done that. At the same time, the National Police Service Commission should also acknowledge it after receiving that one. Obviously, this lady is going to be declared redundant, or she is going to be given another job. This is what I'm calling out President Ruto. You conned us, you cheated us that the police is becoming independent, whereas you just took an assistant, is it deputy permanent secretary, and made her that is unfair. I read somewhere that Edwin Sifuna allegedly said that politicians who are friendly to the government can do or say something and nothing happens. According to what I read, is that Sifuna, an opposition leader, needs to repeat the same what the government friendly politician has said, not because of anything or so that both the opposition politician and the government politician are scolded by the government busybodies to be warned against that. So it has reached a place where politicians who are anti-government, when they notice that the pro-government politicians are talking rubbish, they also talk rubbish, so that they are both colds. Because if they keep quiet, the so-called Kenya National Human Rights Commission, the so-called NCIC, the so-called DCI, the so-called ethics, and that will not notice. But when you repeat what the other one has said, that is when the both of you are called. So these people have to make themselves human targets for that thing to be corrected. In my view, that is unfair, and that is why I have issues with people who are in this Pentecostal whatever. They tend to do a lot of ungodly things. Mr. President, the best church you can make is the one in between your chest, between your lungs. Is that where the heart is? That is the best church you can make. But building a very big church in the State House, when all these things are happening, that is futile. Please amend it.